So what's the difference between intellectual intelligence and emotional intelligence? Now, there are actually 8 different intelligences that have been categorized, but today we're going to be looking at emotional intelligence, specifically the book written by Daniel Goleman. So why is emotional intelligence so important? Well, you can tell the difference between a robotic person who knows a lot, but they have very little emotions, and a charismatic intellectual who seems to move a whole audience. And you can also tell it in their bank account, friends, and love lives as well. In fact, Daniel Goleman says that those who have just enough IQ to get into a decent university, but have stellar EQ, are the ones who rake in the most cash. So how can you develop your EQ, and what can you do to cultivate it? So there are 5 areas of growth you can work on to increase your EQ score, developed by Daniel Goleman. I'm going to go over some topics that revolve around them and how you can work on increasing your emotional intelligence today. So the first is self-awareness, the second is managing emotions, the third is self-motivation, which personally this is an area I could work on. The fourth is empathy, and the fifth is handling relationships. So the first big topic we're going to go into today is called the ventilation fallacy. So there's a stereotypical thought in modern society that to get over your feelings or anger or something like that, we must talk about them. And this helps to some degree to cognitively think about your subconscious feelings, but venting does not help. Yelling, ranting, typing up essays over bitterness, flipping someone off, cesspools of poison as a status update, or any other form of venting method are, according to Daniel's theory, wrong and technically make the situation worse. See, venting when you're angry prolongs your feelings and doesn't help stop them. Goleman and many other studies have proven this. I think venting when you're sad is okay because it's a great way to find out why you're sad, and thus you can make the changes you need to not be sad anymore. But when you're angry, there's usually not much cognitive thinking, and it's usually mostly just emotional lizard brain thinking that happens to cause problems down the road. So try not to vent. So the next topic we're going to go over is to try not to ruminate over things. Instead, try to find distractions. So in high school, I used to be very self-conscious about the things I'd say to other people. Like, was I funny? Did I sound smart? These meant a lot to me when I was in high school, and I thought about them a lot. Eventually, I started a new hobby. I started weightlifting. Now, this little hobby lasted for probably 4 to 6 months, but I lifted good, and almost every single day. And this was a great distraction, but it also built up my physical stature, which physiologically made me more confident. So I distracted myself about what I would say by weightlifting. It's kind of hard to explain, but my confidence increased, and I didn't worry about as much of what I said. I know some people deal with depression and negative thoughts every day. In fact, I dare to say lots of people do. And there's a way around this, because I've been there and I know the environments and thoughts and fears and pain. They only self-feed and they grow, and it's hard to get out of. So negative thoughts keep you in the negative mindset, and just like the confirmation bias, they will confirm your sad feelings. According to the availability bias, things that you ruminate on, things that you're constantly thinking about, will stick around easier and they won't go away on their own. So, you need to fill your head with new ideas instead. Get some hope by starting a business. Gain some confidence by working out. Do something physically active to distract your brain and raise it to a higher energy level. It can be done. You just have to have the motivation to do it, which is also very important to emotional intelligence and, like willpower, can be strengthened over time. So the next big topic is going to be self-motivation. So self-motivation is obviously closely tied to willpower, and you can cultivate it. Most of the time, passion will drive you to do something. So find something that you have passion in, and you'll likely have tons of self-motivation. For me, at times it has been web development, playing with lasers, weightlifting, and now it's making awesome, helpful videos. So the important thing to this is you have to be very self-aware. You have to know what you can do to motivate yourself. So I'm going to go into a little subcategory. Most people are motivated by one of 4 things. They all start with M: money, mating, momentum, or mastery. Of course, money is material things and gaining wealth. Mating is sexual or romantic desire, and this helps if you want to lose weight, weightlift, or get in better shape. Momentum is basically freedom, doing what you want, where you want, and always growing. For me, this channel's momentum is huge. I love waking up and seeing 300 new subscribers or a couple Facebook messages about how I have changed someone's life. It drives me to make more videos knowing I'm making a difference in so many lives. And the last is mastery, which is basically status, and being able to tell others you're a great leader, or you know how to program in 8 programming languages, or speak in 14, or you're an 8th degree black belt. Find what motivates you and use it to your advantage. So if you've never heard of the marshmallow story, I'm going to sum it up pretty quickly. Basically, they take a whole bunch of little 4-year-olds, and they bring them into this room, and they give them 2 options. 1, they can eat a marshmallow right now, Or 2, they can wait until the researcher gets back and have 2 marshmallows. And they actually videotaped this study. So what they did, after probably 15, 20 years, they started and they went back to these people and they were trying to figure out, did the people that waited and got the 2 marshmallows and they practiced delayed gratification, were they more successful? What they found was that after graduation, waiting, having this ability to delay gratification was a better predictor than IQ of their SAT scores. It is also a huge factor of emotional intelligence and future success. So there's also studies that say you can strengthen your willpower and your ability to delay gratification just like a muscle, and also that it gets weak throughout the day and the more you use it, also like a muscle. So the next topic I'd like to go over is that emotions are contagious. So there was this study where they took a volunteer with a high energy level. That is, they were super excited, pumped up, exuberant, and they put him with another volunteer with a low energy level. That is, they were almost depressed. And they set them in a room for a couple minutes to talk. But before they talked, they filled out a form giving them a qualitative review of their moods. A couple minutes later, and magic happened. They gave the form back to both people, and what they realized was that most people didn't stay the same energy level. In fact, in most cases, the high energy level was transferred to the low energy person, which means that if you're in a slump or a rut and you can't seem to get happy or be excited about life, start hanging around people with lots of energy, lots of drive, lots of people who are ambitious and happy about life, because it's contagious. On the other hand, if you see one of your friends in the dumps, do them a favor and help them out. Start spending more time around them. So the next topic is going to be empathy. So empathy is the ability to feel and react to the emotions of others. Now this is a requirement for being a great leader, and you must know what motivates other people and how to pick someone up effectively when they're in a rut. So knowing other people's feelings, especially if you know them better than they do, will give you an edge, and you'll be perceived as highly intelligent in any field. But the best advice I can give you is to talk to lots of people about their feelings on an emotional level, and finding out how they tick. Are you intelligent? Before you start to search for old IQ test results, let's talk. The definition of intelligence, how it's measured, and what it actually means to be intelligent may actually come as a surprise to you. Even the most important theories regarding intelligence, including Gardner's 9 types of intelligences, has been disputed by the world's big names in psychology. In this video, we're going to be touching on the basics of what intelligence is, how it has been defined in recent years, and where the theories of intelligence are moving. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 1, what is intelligence? Now, there are 2 ways that we can define intelligence. These 2 ways are the root of the controversies regarding how we actually measure and identify intelligence. The first definition is one that you're probably familiar with. It says, intelligence is the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. The other definition is a little more complex. Intelligence is a collection of information of military or political value. And there's actually a third that I kind of like. It's Jordan Peterson's definition because it's very articulate. He says, intelligence is the estimate of someone's ability to succeed in hierarchies that are dependent on the ability to manipulate complex sets of information. So that was really long, but I kind of like it. Let's move on to IQ test and intelligence. In the early 1900s, French psychologist Alfred Binet helped to develop the first type of intelligence tests. The French government wanted to use these types of tests to help determine which children were more likely to succeed in school and which ones needed more help. Binet's original test measured something called the mental age of children based on the average age and the skills of a group of students. He admitted that the test had limits and that a single number was not enough to accurately depict all of the factors that influence intelligence. Still, that test was adapted to American schools and is still used today to measure intelligence. High IQ is still associated with overall job performance and something called life success. Now, IQ can change over the span of someone's lifetime, but while it's very easy to decrease a person's IQ, we're still not sure on ways to increase a person's IQ points. So let's talk about how IQ test has problems with speed. Unfortunately though, even though there are many revisions of a standard IQ test, there are still flaws in the design of the test. And let's look at just one of them for now. Intelligence has a lot to do with speed. If I give you a complex problem on an IQ test, you might need a few minutes to solve it, or maybe you'll need a whole month to solve that problem. In both cases, you will still have the ability to solve the problem, but the person who can solve the problem more quickly will end up with a higher IQ score. But what if you have already learned how to solve that test before? The IQ test does take in your actual age, but other factors like your education or your wisdom aren't necessarily taken into account. Remember, in both cases, these people learned how to solve the problem eventually, but when they're asked to solve the problem again, they could probably do it even quicker. So, does the IQ test accurately show how often people have had to solve problems related to their IQ before the test was administered? Like, for example, do you know those metal puzzles where you have to take them apart and then you got to put them back together? or maybe even a Rubik's Cube. Well, once you learn the trick, once you learn how to solve them, you never really have to relearn it. You can always do it quicker and quicker every time that you do it the next time. So, is someone who learned the trick called more intelligent? Well, that's where we get into two types of intelligence: fluid and crystallized. These questions have led people to explore different types of intelligences. So, how can we recognize people who take a little bit longer to learn something, but they still have the ability to do so? How can we categorize people that just need to pull on past experiences that they've had to solve problems and repeat learned facts? Well, one of the ways that we can do this is to make distinctions by identifying fluid versus crystallized intelligence. The theory of these types of intelligence was developed by Raymond Cattell, a psychologist who is actually known for his work in trait psychology, and you've probably heard his name before. I've talked about him before. But what he did is he theorized that there are two types of intelligence: fluid and crystallized. See, fluid intelligence is the ability to gather, store, and organize facts and information in your head. Crystallized intelligence, on the other hand, is factual knowledge. So, people can gain crystallized intelligence as they memorize new facts and as they're exposed to new knowledge and more experiences. However, on the other hand, fluid intelligence is the innate ability to learn quickly, and it usually decreases with age. So both of these types of intelligences give you the ability to succeed. Another popular way of categorizing intelligence is something called the triarchic theory, developed by Robert J. Sternberg. Rather than looking at the way you gain and store knowledge, the triarchic theory looks at different ways that people apply knowledge. Little things like fun facts about animals or the ability to solve a logic puzzle may not help you when you're trying to read a map or when you're trying to network with friends, but all of these skills together can help you succeed in certain situations, and that is what the triarchic theory aims to recognize. They separate intelligence into three main categories. So the first one is called analytical intelligence, and it's the type of intelligence that we've been discussing. It's the brain's ability to interpret information and use that information to solve problems. This is the type of intelligence that is required to gain a high IQ score, but the triarchic theory argues that there's more to intelligence than just solving a math problem. A lot of people call this type of intelligence book smarts. The second type of intelligence in the triarchic theory is practical intelligence. Practical intelligence is an experience-based accumulation of skills and explicit knowledge, as well as the ability to apply that knowledge to everyday problems. This is a type of intelligence that you need to solve the problems of the world around you. In order to gain practical intelligence, you need to have the knowledge of the area, the culture, the history, and the list goes on and on and on. Math will not help you solve a dispute between two neighbors, or settle a debate on how to solve the city's traffic problems. This type of intelligence is highly present in great leaders. And lastly is creative intelligence. It's the last type of intelligence in the triarchic theory, and it describes the ability to adapt your knowledge and gather relevant knowledge that will help you adapt to new situations. While practical intelligence is often referred to as book smarts, I would argue that this type of intelligence is more suited to be called street smarts. So if you're dropped in the middle of an unknown street in an unknown culture, you're going to need some creative intelligence to get to where you need to go and try to adapt to the new situation. So here's a good test of creative intelligence. Write down as many possible uses of a red brick that you can and time yourself. Do it in 5 minutes. Can you come up with 20? You're doing pretty good. And if you can come up with more than 50 uses of a red brick in under 5 minutes, you should be a creative genius. So now we've talked about all kinds of intelligence. So do these theories cover all types of intelligence? Not according to the last theory that I'm going to cover. I'll wrap up this video with information about something called the 9 types of intelligences. You probably thought this was going to be a video about the different types of intelligences: musical, kinesthetic, linguistic, all those different types, right? Well, the 9 types of intelligences describe a theory created by Howard Gardner. Howard Gardner is an American developmental psychologist who studied different types of intelligence throughout the second half of the 20th century. He believed that IQ tests and traditional ways of measuring intelligence only addressed linguistic and mathematical intelligence. Now, you probably know many intelligent people who might not excel on a math test or a reading assignment display a deep understanding and knowledge in other areas of life. He explained that there are 7 types of intelligences in his 1983 book, Frames of Mind. And over the years, he's added 2 other types of intelligences, adding it up to 9. And while this theory is completely separate from Kolb's theories about different learning styles, we can actually connect the two and explore how people with different types of intelligences learn. So here are the 9 types of intelligences: musical rhythmic, visual spatial, linguistic, mathematical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, existential, naturalistic, and body kinesthetic. So before I end this video, I want to talk a little bit about the controversy of this. The 9 types of intelligence has rocked the world of educational psychology, and in recent years, this theory has actually been disputed quite a bit. Jordan Peterson, arguably one of the most famous psychologists in the world today, calls the 9 types of intelligence theories rubbish. He argues that the 9 types of intelligences are just 9 types of talents, which is an idea that I somewhat agree with. I think intelligence should be one thing, not a subset of things. Think back to his general definition of intelligence. Intelligence is the estimation of someone's ability to succeed in hierarchies that are dependent on the ability to manipulate complex sets of information. So these critiques and arguments are still in development, and it will be interesting to see where the world of educational psychology and personality psychology in general moves within the next few decades. So keep an eye out for new developments, and remember, even if you never scored high on an IQ test, there's still a good chance that you hold some type of intelligence that will help you succeed. I hope this video gave you a good definition and a clear overview of what intelligence is and what we're trying to define it as. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to watch some of the other videos in this personality series. And if you want to learn more about your own personality, you can go ahead and check out my free 3-in-1 personality quiz in the description below. What it does is it actually combines 3 of the major personality quizzes into just one quiz that you can take in under 10 minutes. It's absolutely free, and at the end of it, I'm going to try to predict some things about you, like your political stances, your relationship style, and even your health. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video and, most importantly, learned something.